It's, I think, very timely for us to be focusing on people who maybe don't have what others have. And my guests coming back after this break will be talking about just those things. They represent Benton-Franklin Community Action Connections, and they have a very, very important story to tell. So please stay with us here on Meet in the Middle on Monday. In our studio today, we have, I don't know that I've ever had 4 guests at one time. So we have 4 great women here from Benton-Franklin Community Action Connections. Let me provide their names for you. We have the director, Judith Gidley. We also have Becky Hildman. We have Dahlia Ochoa and Kathy Merrill Hawley, all of you. So welcome to have you here today. At first, I called Judith because I really wanted to talk about homelessness in the Tri-Cities and what kind of an issue we have. And if you can think about what would it be like for you to know, I don't know where I'm going to go and get some warm shelter and it's 19 degrees. It's hard, quite frankly, for me to even imagine that, just to even imagine that. But there are people in our community that have those challenges. Is that right, Judith? Do we have people like that?
Yes. We have people all the time who are homeless and don't have a place to go. They'll sit on the bench out in front of our office. Because it used to be that we were able to provide an emergency housing voucher, which put them up in a motel. But the funding's not there anymore. So they have to go to the mission. And if they're full, there's not too many other places to go.
Well, already on this program, we have talked to several people who are homeless or vulnerable to be homeless, and quite frankly, I'm a little surprised to learn the extent in our own community. We have, I'm going to guess, a lot of people who are hidden. They might be living in their cars, they might be couch surfing, they are hanging out in places that we don't really see them. It's not like it's Seattle when you walk down the street and there are people laying in the street, or, New York or Washington, D.C. But they're here, aren't they? They need help.
Yes. A lot of them are, as you say, are out there and don't know where to go, but there are places that they can go for assistance. The only thing is that the majority of those are like us, an office that's only open during the work hours. Mm-hmm. And so if they find themselves homeless on Saturday morning, the mission is the only place that they can go to. There is a place for homeless youth to go to, and that's my friend's place over in Kennewick. There's the opportunity for those who are domestic violence to go to the domestic violence shelter, but they have to go through the office first to get to the shelter, I believe. But during the week, the coordinated entry system for homeless housing is being operated by the Benton-Franklin Department of Human Services, and it's over on Moraine. And they take applications and refer to agencies that provide housing subsidy, and we are one of the major housing subsidy program providers. Clients can come to our office direct. They don't have to. There are programs that they don't have to go through the coordinated entry, but if they've gone through the coordinated entry and they need longer than 1 month's prevention, they generally come to us where we can help them for up to 3 months, reassess, and then for an additional 3 to 6 months till they get stabilized. Mm-hmm.
The Benton-Franklin Community Action Connections Agency used to be Community Action Committee. You've been around for a while, haven't you? How long?
Since 1966.
Whoa, okay, that's a while.
We'll be celebrating 50 years.
Whoa, okay. But you just recently changed from Community Action Committee to Connections.
Yes.
All right. So can you help us understand the role that your agency plays in the Tri-Cities?
Well, we're one of 30 in the state of Washington community action agencies that's mainly funded by what's called community services block grant funds that's our kickoff point. And we generate generally about $28.93 last year for every dollar we received in CSVG funds, and served over 52,000 individuals who came through our doors for a variety of programs.
Well, I don't understand that. So for each dollar, you're creating 20-some dollars worth of services? What does that mean?
Well, what it means is that our CSVG money is what we use to write grants and go after funding. And then we bring the funding in to provide the delivery of services. The Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, known as LIHEAP, is one of those. It's over $1.3 million that helps pay energy assistance for people. And so without that, without our CSVG money, we wouldn't be here as an office.
Okay, I want to help people and myself understand folks that are in need in the community. I want you to tell us about some of the, and Judith, maybe there's somebody here who is on our panel that could do a good job of this, of describing some situations that they have come across, no names of course, but help us understand what are we looking at here in our community.
Okay, I'm going to let Becky talk to you about one of the families that she helped in the child care homeless housing program.
Okay.
I mean, homeless child care program.
Hi.
Hi, Becky.
Hi. I would like to tell you a little story about a father that came in with his 4 children. He was single, and he was living at a shelter, but because he was a man, he was unable to have his children with him at night on the men's side. So he had to ask a female friend to come down from Spokane to actually spend the night in the shelter with his children. And so for him to look for a job and housing, he needed a place to leave his children. So we were able to hook him up with our homeless child care subsidy and get the children into a licensed child care. They had to come back in and check in weekly to let us know how they were doing and if they needed any additional help or anything. But one of the little boys that was there also had a food allergy, and at the shelter he was staying at, the only thing he could have was top ramen. So he was really discouraged about that. So I thought, well, this will be great. It's summer, and he's in a licensed program. They're going swimming and doing all kinds of fun activities. And so I asked the little guy, I says, well, what's the best thing about going to summer camp? And he looked at me and said, I get to eat. So
Whoa.
the licensed child care actually is with the food program and has, they have to accommodate food allergies and whatnot. So it was just really a warm feeling to know that this child was getting his needs met, as well as being in a secure and out of the 100 and some degree weather and getting those things. The dad did end up getting housing and a job, and I'm not sure what unfolded from that point, but they did. That little bit of help got him going and going secure.
What led to him being at the shelter with 4 children? What led up to that?
Well, he didn't really give a lot of his family history, but it was domestic violence, and it's sometimes hard to believe that the man can be abused as well as a woman. And he was in a very violent relationship and found himself in the car with 4 kids and no place to go.
Wow. All right. That how great that we have services in our community to be able to help that family. So that sounds like a situation that's like temporary. Like circumstances happened in his life that he needed help on like a temporary basis. What other kinds of situations do we have in our community?
In the homeless child care program that I see, a lot of the, and the majority are women, but a lot of them are displaced. They'll come from another country, not only Mexico, but Africa, the continent. And the person that they came over to our country with they'll get placed here or move here because this family or friends, and the breadwinner up and leaves, and then the person is left here to fend on their own. That's one other thing. Our domestic violence is huge, where they end up having to move out of the stable home that they thought they had and now have no place to go. So.
And Becky can link them up with our housing program. We have one that's called the tenant-based rental assistance, and that's for families with children. And you don't have to be homeless. You have to be on the verge of losing your housing to be on the program. And that does case management along with it to help stabilize the family and move them off into self-sufficiency, and can be up to 24 months.
Do you deal with any folks who are older, who just simply, you know, the cost of living has increased to the point that they just simply cannot pay to live? They can't pay for rent, they can't pay for their energy costs or, you know, food, what?
Well, Dahlia can talk to you about the LIHEAP assistance that she does for the seniors.
Well, tell me some of the seniors' situations first. I need to understand who the people are.
Well, seniors as a whole, you have the seniors that find themselves that are very, at first, they're very prideful. They're very, even asking for assistance is difficult for them, even though their means of living aren't what we would call to par. They're what we call normal. To them, they're barely hanging on by the bootstraps. So for them to even say, I need help, is difficult for them. So these kinds of programs that are out there for the low-income home energy assistance program is a big aid for them, so that heating, just finding that you have a heating home, a warm home to come home to, that's a big help itself. To where the normal person is thinking, oh, okay, I have Thanksgiving around the corner. For them, it's more of, do I pay my utility or do I pay for the food that I'm going to eat? It's more of a choice for them, because it's difficult for them, because they don't have the they don't have the money to sustain themselves. So you have the seniors that are willing to come and approach and say, I need help, and then you have the seniors that they rely on this, they need it because they only have a set income.
We had a couple who came in about a little over a year ago who were in their 80s, and he was in a wheelchair and she was on oxygen, and they were in the process of had their electricity shut off. They couldn't keep her oxygen tank going without it. When the staff person took them through eligibility, lo and behold, they were something like $12 or $16 over income, which means we're not supposed to help them by the regulations. But instead, that money that I talked about earlier, or CSBG money, we decided, along with some money that we'd gotten from CH2M Hill, to serve seniors 70 years of age and over who were over income, that we put money together and we paid for their electricity and got it back on. There was no way that, personally, I was going to let those two walk out the door to a home with no electricity.
But here's a situation where, I mean, it was going to go on forever. I mean, as long as they lived, actually, or lived at that residence, because you can't give blood out of a turnip. I mean, you can't squeeze any more money. I mean, people at that age are getting, I mean, that is the real fixed income, and it is fixed. So the source of help that you looked for is ongoing, I take it.
Yes, because there's also the possibility that they had a circumstances that month, as you say, an emergency that they had to deal with, extra medical expenses that kept them from paying their electric bill or buying groceries. And Dahlia's program also teaches them energy conservation, as well as we have a weatherization program where if their furnace is out, we go out and check and then get the furnace back up and going in the house, so they're not without it. Sometimes it just takes that little bit of extra to get them back on their feet, because that couple went on to be able to pay their electric bill after that.
Another thing we have is wonderful partners with the PUDs, the local PUDs. When you get your bill and it says Helping Hands Fund, the PUD collects that money, gives it to CAC to distribute, and when elderly people come in the situation that Judith just described, or families that are in dire need and what we can give them isn't enough, the dollars that the community has donated through this Helping Hands program can also be used to help them go home to a warm home, a safe home, and especially if they have medical equipment, that it's very important to have.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that the Helping Hands on the PUD, that those funds came to you. I was thinking that the PUD themselves administered that, but they don't.
No.
They don't. But they don't turn electricity off at, you know, the first time or even the second time that people don't pay their bill. I mean, as I understand it, there's quite a process.
The PUDs are every PUD works distinctively, but one thing I can say in common between them is that they work with their customers. That's the last thing that they want to do. All they want is customers to keep in contact with them. So they try to find ways to, whether it be payment plans, whether you going in there and talking to them, or even saying, you know, well, I've gone to CEC and I've made an appointment. There's like, oh, okay, we understand your situation. We'll go ahead, you know, and wait for your intake and see what happens at your intake.
So you got to show some effort there.
Yes.
Yeah. But I hear what you're saying about older people unwilling to take help, or even realize to that extent that they need help, or that it could be out there. I just saw this myself last week, and it just is, well, we need more of it on one end.
Yeah.
More of us need to think that we can handle it and do it on our own. But on the other side, if you really do need help, oh my gosh. Hey, we've got to take a break right here. We'll be back though. And here's our phone number. If you have got some questions, comments, we sure want to hear them today on this Monday. 547-8726. We're back in a moment here on Meet in the Middle. We are talking about folks in our community that need help. And so, you know, it seems like homelessness is, like, there are a bunch of different reasons, and I want to talk a little bit about the reasons and then what we as a community do to overcome that. And Judith, you said it first to me earlier when you first got here, but sometimes people chronically make bad decisions.
Yes.
They make bad decisions. Shouldn't mean, I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't want to help them or feel the desire for them to be better, but people chronically make bad decisions sometimes.
Yeah, they make a bad decision and they make a bad choice. And you know as well as I do that your house is your roof over your head. You can live in a house, but you can't, I mean, you can have no electricity, but you're inside. But if you don't pay the rent and you don't pay the electricity, you're out on the street. Where are you? You make the choice to buy your cell phone or pay your cell phone bill, or to buy a car that's beyond your means and stuff, and then you have car trouble. So they have to make good, sensible choices with what money they do have, realizing that their house should come first, their utilities and the food for their children, if they have children, or for themselves. It's when you get that out of order that you can end up in big trouble.
So there is a percentage of folks in that category. There are also people that have like a temporary situation that happens to them, a big medical problem that ends up costing them money, or something that ends up taking your priority resources, and so you find yourself in a bad situation. Or, as we were just talking about, older folks who have just come to the very tip top of their fixed income, man, and it is just plain not enough. So your program can help people in those temporary situations. They can get them over the hump and all. I want to go back to some folks who are more chronic. What can we do? How can we work with those people? How can we change their thinking? Give them more skills? What are we doing there?
Well, we have two major programs. One is called the Bateman Project and one is the Choices Project. Those are HUD grant funds for chronically homeless individuals who come from the mission or on the street or a place not fit for human habitation. And once there's no income criteria. Once they meet the criteria for chronic homelessness and coming off of the street or the mission, they can get permanent subsidized housing, single individuals, for as long as they follow the process of the program, and that's working towards self-sufficiency. If they have Social Security disability, staff link them to volunteering, so they're not just sitting at home and not doing anything. If they have no job, they work with them to help them find a job so they can stabilize. And they only pay 30% of their income towards their rent. So if they have no income, they don't pay anything.
Mm-hmm.
If they have $100, they pay $30 towards their rent and stuff. And so that's a program that serves somewhere around 120 people every month get that assistance. And then we have those who have an emergency, as you said, with a large car repair or something, or a large medical bill, that this month they just do not have it to pay their rent, and they don't see that that's going to go away with 1 month. They may already be in arrears one in the current month, where our program can pay the arrears the next month, and then reassess them to pay 3 more months while they get stabilized.
Mm-hmm.
So there is the opportunity for that for people here in the community.
Something too that I think is important to say is CAC is a different type of social service agency. We don't solve people's problems for them. We give them the tools so that they can solve the problems. We support them, we encourage them, we believe if they can work, they should work.
Mm-hmm.
So we are a bit hard-nosed about things, but that's the only way to help. We are going to be providing classes on budgeting and parenting, all the things that do hold families and individuals back. We're going to be working, we're going to be providing a computer lab at the Second Chance Center so that we can help with resume writing and access to WorkSource job openings. We are going to provide meals to take with them until we can get them stabilized for housing. We do all sorts of things, but they are tools to help people out of poverty.